One thing that's really inspired me to why I'm doing the wellness center or to be an advocate for first responders is because so many first responders are killing themselves because of being injured and after the after effects of being injured. Again, they're the ones surviving, whatever it may be. And now there's dealing with either survivor remorse, depending on the situation, or they're dealing with just the aftermath of work comp, the financial problems, the marital problems, the pain that they're dealing with their injuries. I mean, addictions, you name it, that come from work comp injuries. And it's sad that in this day and age, with everything with technology, like the city should be ashamed of themselves of how they're treating first responders. We're not a number, we're a person, and we gave up so much, and yet we're getting taken advantage of and getting disrespected and just not taken care of.
The Blue Line Voice. Blood, sand, and smoke.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Blue Line Voice, Blood, Sand, and Smoke podcast. I'm your host, Josh Weddell. Today, we have a very special guest joining us from California. She was born and raised in Santa Monica to a family of law enforcement. She unfortunately lost her father at the age of 12. She was raised by her mom alongside her 4 siblings. At the age of 14, she became a police explorer. And by the age of 15, she was cruising around in Santa Monica Police Department. Nearly crushed to death, pinned against a car by a drunk driver when she was on the job. On July 4th, 2000, she was shot in the arm at the Santa Monica Pier. She was told she might lose her arm, and she was told she may never work again. She fought back through faith and the year of rehab and returned to patrol. 8 more years on the street after coming back, she medically retired from her line of duty injuries. She was also on the TV show Survivor, Cook Island in 2006. She is a tech consultant on the J-Lo film Angel Eyes. Today, she does executive protection, security consultant. She does school speaking and advocacy speaking. She's an advocate for injured officers and families of fallen. And she is the founder of Code 3 Reset Wellness Center, a sanctuary for first responders that's up and coming. Cristina Coria, it's awesome to have you.
Well, thanks for having me.
So let's start off in Santa Monica. Tell us about growing up in Santa Monica. Your dad was a police officer, and let's start from there.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Santa Monica, grew up in Santa Monica, Samo High, Santa Monica College. My father and my uncle were both police officers. Unfortunately, I never met my uncle. He died of cancer. And my dad, he was killed when I was 12. And unfortunately, it was after he retired. And my mom was pregnant at the time. And my mom ended up raising us by herself. She was a strong woman, very, I look up to her because she did a lot by herself by raising 5 of us. At 14, I was an explorer. At 18, I was a cadet, then a water conservation officer, community service officer. And then I was a college police officer for 1 year since Santa Monica was on hiring at the time. And then went to Santa Monica Police Department. And I gave them 14 years there and 1 year at the college. On the job, like you said, I succumbed to several injuries on the job between being hit by a car, almost getting squished to death, going back to work. Had other altercations or injuries, and then got shot on the 4th of July of 2000, where it fractured my humerus, out of my radius. I was partially paralyzed. And they actually initially wanted to take my arm, and luckily my mom told them to save it. And so when I woke up, I was partially paralyzed, and I was determined not to have my arm that way, which is weird because there was a teacher I remember in 8th grade who had her arm at 90 degrees and she couldn't straighten it or bend it, or bend it. I remember that. I'm like, I am not going to be that teacher. I'm not going to be that arm. I'm going to make sure I get my arm back. And like, I prayed on it. I remember like, God, you made me, you could fix me. And I was in the gym twice a day. I looked like RoboCop. I mean, I had this RoboCop thing on my arm, and it was so embarrassing. So I'd go to the gym at 2 a.m. when no one was around. And I was determined. I was doing rehab. I was doing massages. I was doing everything possible, imaginable, going to retreats and just praying like, God, I know you're going to be able to fix me. And within a year and a month later, I was back to work full time. I have limitations still. I can't completely supinate or pronate all the way, and I can't touch my shoulder. but I was able to go back to the job and do the job just a little differently. And then after I retired in 2008. I am getting married, getting divorced. I'm having a miscarriage, and now starting all these different programs.
It's a hell of a story. And it's a lot.
That is,
You lost your dad at the age of 12, unfortunately. What did that do to you as a kid, and what forced you to follow in his footsteps?
well, I just remember all the times that my dad would have the parties at the house, and his partners would come, and just camaraderie, the closeness of everybody. Um, and after he died, going to the funeral and seeing the 21 gun salute, seeing the flag being given to my brother, who actually was 6 years old at the time. He saluted actually with the wrong hand because he had no idea what to do. He was 6 years old. Just seeing all of that and seeing the lines of police cars, and just I was just very proud of my father, and very proud that he did what he did for all the years he did. And actually, this is what really I remember this very, very clearly. These two guys walked up to my mother when she was pregnant at the funeral, and they asked my mom, like, oh, they basically told my mom, "You don't know us, but your husband arrested us several times." And they said, "But your husband was a good man, and he was a good police officer. He treated us with respect, and we knew that if we disrespected him or if we ran from him, we were gonna get our butts kicked." But they go, "But we know we deserved it. But your husband was a really good man and a good
That's
police officer."
amazing that
Yes.
that obviously that shows that he was a very good at community policing.
Yes, yes. And so that it made me realize, okay, you know what? When I wanted to become a police officer at that time, and that's why I went to the Explorer program 2 years later. My sister was also an Explorer when she was 15. And so I knew this is what I wanted to do. And it just kind of led me to where I became a police officer. And I knew that was my calling.
Your mom raised 5 kids alone.
Yes.
What did she teach you?
Well, she taught me that you gotta be very independent. I mean, I learned how to do a lot of things by myself. I mean, she was knocking down walls when she was pregnant. She was doing plumbing. She was doing electrical. She was doing like freaking tile work. I mean, my mom learned to do it all, and she's from Mexico. She learned how to speak English herself. She didn't. She was self taught, and that's all she speaks now. It's pretty funny, but she did it all. She really did it all, and she lived off my dad's pension, and we rented the rooms out to like foreign exchange students. So she knew how to make money. She was really good with money, at least. She graduated as an accountant with a diploma in accounting. So she knew, at least to manage money. But I don't know how she did it. I mean, especially at that time, I'm sure my dad's pension wasn't a lot. And we didn't get anything because he wasn't killed in the line of duty. We didn't get any of those benefits. So my mom struggled a lot. So that's one thing I look at now that I'm retired, and I see, officers who have been killed and their families, but I also see the aftermath of officers who are injured and how they're forgotten. And here they're still alive. So to me, it's like that is my passion, is to help other first responders who are injured and help give them a voice that they don't have necessarily, to speak out against like work comp or the city or the departments or, whatever it may be.
You started at the age of 14 as a police explorer, and you kind of already hit on this. So I think the audience would know, but was it your dad, the spirit of your dad that pulled you into being a police explorer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, I just want to follow in those footsteps, and I just loved it. What's funny is I was so afraid of guns before I became an explorer. And I remember my dad was trying to show me how to shoot the gun, and I was like, "No, I'm good, I'm good." And then later on, it's like, I don't know, it just was second nature, and I fell in love with all that stuff. I fell in love with helping people and learning new things and learning how to help help the public and be there for them.
You did explorer, cadet, parking, community service, college police, bunch of other stuff, and then you were sworn in.
Mhm.
What did that climb, when you were doing that climb to get into Santa Monica, what did that teach you?
What did that teach me? Well, first of all, you have to have passion for something. You have to know what you want in your life. You have to have a direction. So to me, it's like I knew what my direction was. I knew what my goal was, and just getting there, and no matter what it took. And I worked out hard. I did when I was in the academy, I worked out hard. I wanted to make sure that I got to my goal, and I'm glad I did, because being a cop was everything to me. Again, while I was a police officer, I did different assignments. I worked gangs, I worked vice, I worked narcotics, I worked crisis negotiation, I worked as a school officer, I worked bike patrol, and like I did a little bit of everything. And loved it. Like, I didn't wanna be a supervisor. I didn't wanna be a training officer. Like, to me, that wasn't my thing. To me, it was being on the street and being where people can use us for help.
That leads us into the next question. So at Santa Monica, you worked the bikes, gang, narcotics, vice, crisis negotiator, school resource. I'm probably missing something, but which, which
Explorer
one
advisor.
which one do you think shaped you the most?
You know, they all were great. I really enjoyed all of them. I mean, the crisis negotiation is I enjoy that only because you got to pick in people's brain. You got to like kind of help them out in a different way. It wasn't about taking them down. It was about really getting in their head and giving them a solution to their problems. Because a lot of them were suicidal. A lot of them, have issues that they feel like there's no answer for. And I think that's one big thing with law enforcement is like I think people just want answers, and whether it's finding a way to get money, finding a way to take care of their parents, finding a way to pay for the house, or finding a way to take care of an injury, or like there's just so many different things that they have that sometimes they feel they have no solution for it, and they get desperate, and then they do all these stupid things. But if there's a solution at the end of the tunnel, what can they do? They're not going to fight. They're not going to cause problems. They're not going to try to kill themselves. You're giving them a solution. So to me, that was awesome. And then the school, working in the school was awesome because you're getting to them young, so that they don't become our problems in the future. And you can either mold them to where they respect you and to where they become hopefully a police officer or military or a fireman or something that's going to be a good career, and keep them out of trouble. Or unfortunately, a lot of them will go the direction of getting into trouble, and now you're the one arresting them. And then same thing with the gangs. Like I see these kids, and I grew up in Santa Monica, so I knew a lot of their parents. So that was a interesting position. I mean, I like that too because I got to know all the different gangs from all the different cities and all the different, like the dynamics of that. I mean, I think every position I had, I got something from. It was I don't even know which one really was the best. It was they all molded me to who I am today,
Looking back at your career, what did you love most about the job?
helping the people. Being a police officer, you're almost like a superhero. You don't have a costume, but your costume is your uniform. You're a different person in that uniform. You were a counselor, you were a teacher, you were a, savior. Like, you're like a little bit of everything. I don't know how to explain it. You walk in a room and you can pretty much work that room. You can own that room. You can get into places you normally wouldn't get if you were a civilian. It was honestly a great experience. And, I miss being around my peers, being around my companions, my partners. I really do miss being out there and helping people. When I see those cars going code 3 driving by me, like, it sends that chill. You're like, "Okay, God, I wish I was in that car," because that adrenaline rush is just yeah.
You were in some scary situations during your career, and I'm going to take you back to when you were pinned against a car by a drunk driver. Can you take us there?
Yeah. I was only a few years on the job. It was in 1996, and literally a few years on the job. I was probably about 24 maybe at the time that happened. So I was very young. And I just literally saw my life flash before my eyes when I was getting pinned up against that car. And I just could see the face of the girl, the driver. She just gave me this blank stare. And like she didn't care. I mean, she really didn't care. I thought, wow, this is someone in my career, my life. It was pretty scary. I will admit, once I was released from that pressure and was in front of the police car, I wasn't as worried about me anymore. And I think your adrenaline really in any situation really helps keep you alive. It really helps push you, it relieves the pain. But I also think in my mind, like I just you have to have that will to survive. You have to have that mindset that no matter what it may be, you're gonna be okay. During the whole time of all my different situations that I've been in that were like almost life altering, I just trusted in God and I realized, okay, you know what? I'm gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I didn't want my mom to worry. She already had that door knock once. So even when I got hit by the car, I was worried about my mom getting that door knock. When I got shot, I was worried about my mom getting that door knock. And as a female, like I didn't want to have the guy see me cry. So I was always trying to stay strong, always trying to laugh at things because that was my way to mask the pain because I didn't want to look weak. I didn't want to look like that. Oh, she's that female that's crying. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you had another experience on July 4th, 2000 at the pier, which is in Santa Monica.
Yes.
Can you take us back to that day and walk us through, if you don't mind?
No, it was on 4th of July of 2000, and I was probably about, gosh, I was young. I was 20, but 29 then. Um, it was a hostage situation. Well, first it was two guys were wanted for murder, and they traced the phone call to our pier. They caught the first guy, and he had bullets that fell out of his pocket. So they were wanted for murder. So now those bullets were evidence. Which, looking back now, we could have just should have taken pictures of those bullets and transported them. But my sergeant walked up to me and this other female officer, and there was a bunch of other male officers. But he looked at her and I, and he said, "Oh, you two, watch the bullets." And then you, to all the other guys, come with me. And so her and I just looked at each other, going, "What the hell? Like, this is ridiculous." So we're standing there. Next thing you know, my old partner comes up and says, "Hey, Christina, do you want to help me cover the back?" And I go, "Yeah, hold on." So I look and I find another officer who, he wouldn't mind standing there watching the bullets. And I said, "Hey, can you watch the bullets?" He's like, "Sure." So I, relieve my post and got someone to relieve it. Took off with my partner. And as we're running in the back of the arcade, we see a commotion. What we didn't realize was the officers were retreating because the guy had a hostage. We never saw that. And so I never saw the suspect at all. And so next thing you know, I hear bullets and film whizzing by me, literally whizzing by my head. I'm like, where the hell is this guy? And we're running through the crowd towards whatever, towards the arcade, not knowing where this guy is at. So there's nowhere to get cover because it was an open area. And at that point, I feel something hit my arm. And my partner's like, "Christina, you've been hit." I'm like, "I'm okay." He's like, "No." I thought it was just a graze. He goes, "No, Christina, your arm is just hanging," because both bones were broken because they had broken that bone and that bone. So it literally was just hanging. And again, adrenaline definitely helped. And I was like, "No, I'm okay." He's like, "No, we got to get out of here." So at that point, as we're trying to get to the police car, because there was no ambulance or fire department that can go onto the pier because it's active shooter, we end up running towards the sergeant's police car, the same sergeant who told me to watch the bullets. And he's like, "What? I told you to watch the bullets." I'm like, "I know. I don't, I don't need to get out there, but I have someone else that relieved me. So, it's all good." So at that point, the guy's still shooting. He shot two other officers and ended up going into the arcade, holding people hostage there for hours as a standoff. And so I was rushed to the emergency in the police car while the other two officers were rushed in an ambulance because later on they were shot. And next thing you know, is I'm walking into the hospital, and they didn't know we were coming because our dispatchers couldn't radio it in because they're so busy. So as I'm walking in to UCLA, and that drive seemed like forever from Santa Monica to UCLA, um, and I didn't realize how much blood I had lost. The female officer who was there, she's like, "Christina, you lost so much blood in that car. Like, literally, I can't believe you don't remember blood." And I blocked it out, I guess. And as I'm walking to the front door of the hospital, my cousin's walking out. She's a candy striper. And I said, "God, you look really pale." And next thing I know is I pass out. It wasn't her, it was me. So I wake up, now they've given me morphine and everything. And yeah, I just remember waking up and then all of a sudden going back to sleep. And next thing I know, I'm waking up from the surgery, which was like 15-hour surgery. And they had me face down. So I guess my face was totally swollen. So when I got up, everyone thought I got shot in the face because my face was a reaction from the anesthesia and from being face down. And then at the same time, my mom told me, "Well, they're about to take your arm." And I told them to save it. And when I woke up again, I couldn't open my hand. I couldn't use it. So at that point, I'm like, "Okay, well, it is what it is." And I almost got an infection. In fact, another thing, I almost lost my arm again because while I was at the hospital, I started seeing this like discoloring on my shoulder, and it was hurting so bad 'cause my arm was hanging the whole time on this contraption. And I asked the nurse, I'm like, "Hey, something's going on with my arm. It really hurts." And they're like, "No, no, you're fine." I'm like, "No, can I get the doctor?" And the doctor came and he goes, "Oh yeah, you're getting gangrene. No, we got to give you antibiotics." So I was so pissed. I was like, "Thank you God I said something." But it just, you have to be your own advocate and no matter what it is. But yeah, so I was in the hospital a week and was released and how to recover. Like in that year, I had a year and I took an extra month because they only give you a year for work comp. So I
Yeah,
took a
so
month of
they said you might lose your arm and it may never work again. So what did you do for yourself to get yourself back?
well, again, remembering that teacher, I'm like not gonna be her. So I was and again, the contraption I had on my arm, it was like this plastic with a metal thing that kept me at 90 degrees. And they were telling me, try to massage it and straighten it, try to massage it, straighten it. That way it locks it in place. And so every day I'd have my best friend massage it as much as I could, even though it hurt, and just straighten it. And then I would do rehab. I mean, I was like, I remember trying to open my fingers, I couldn't open them. And it's so weird how your mind is trying to do one thing and your body's not doing what you're asking it to do, which is really scary. The thing I had little contraptions, like little cranes that would hold my fingers open. and I could close it. I just couldn't open it because that radial nerve was damaged. And I was going to retreats. I was going to Bible study. I mean, I will say, not, I would never kill myself 'cause I'm not that person. But I will say, you get into that dark depression where you're like, why me? Why this? Why that? And there was a time I was pretty broken. I was going through a lot, and I lived in the city I worked. Um, and I didn't have any of the officers come visit me, and it kind of really bugged me because I'm thinking this is the time I needed someone around. And, I remember sitting there and I opened my Bible, which normally is in my bedroom, and this time it was on my coffee table. And I kept like saying, God, why? Like, seriously, why am I here? And at that point, I opened it up to Jeremiah 29:11. And I don't remember scriptures all the time, but that's one I will remember. And it basically says God has a plan and it's not for us to understand. And at least not right now, but it's something for us to prosper. And I looked at it as okay. And then next thing I opened it to another chapter was God's not going to give you more than you can handle. I opened it to another one. I said, this too shall pass. And I was like, okay, God, I got it. I got it. I really felt like God was talking to me. And so at that point, I used all my negative stuff that I was going through in my life and made it positive. And at that time, I was in the gym twice a day. I was again going to rehab. I was doing rehab at home. I was massaging. I was, going to women's retreats. I was going to Bible study. I did a little bit of everything. And literally having God in my life is what really helped me through all this because if I didn't have God, I think I would be broken right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of officers across the country, first responders that they have to find their flavor, right? You got to find what's going to work for you coming back from a traumatic incident, and and that's also in the veteran community as well. But you found faith, and that's what helped you. And that day that when you opened up the Bible, that's what helped bring you back.
To be honest,
Yeah.
I don't know how people don't believe in God because seriously, it was weird. I was 21 when I first became a police officer. I had a dream, and it's so weird that my mom and my best friend can vouch for me. In this dream, I was on the Santa Monica Pier, and I ended up getting shot by this suspect. And it was funny because it was behind the arcade, but the guy had a comb and then became a knife and then became a gun. And I'm struggling with him with it, right? But it was a totally different situation. It wasn't even what happened on the pier. And next thing you know, is the gun goes off and like part of my head gets blown off. And I remember being on a gurney and I remember going towards this light and I remember saying, I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And I was crying in my dream. And I remember my dad's voice saying, it's not your time. Don't worry, it's not your time. And when I woke up, I literally had tears in my eyes. I've never had a dream where felt so real and literally had tears in my eyes. At the time I was engaged and I told my ex-fiance, I'm like, hey, I had this really bad dream. He's like, oh, just go to bed. So next thing you know, in the morning, I tell my mom, I tell my best friend what happened. And they're like, oh, maybe it's just your dad trying to warn you, just be careful. Years later is when this whole thing on the pier happened. And my best friend calls me that day at the hospital. She's like, do you remember that dream? I'm like, yes, I remember that dream. She goes, maybe it was just your dad that saved you. So it's kind of interesting how things happen.
The Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yes, he does.
So your arm, you still have injuries sustained from that incident on the pier.
Yes.
And how are you dealing with that today?
Well, I have the pain in my arm, now I'm getting pain in my thumbs, which is really more excruciating right now. And then I have pain in my neck and pain in my back. So I had neck surgery, back surgery. I've had three surgeries on my arm, my left arm. I've had carpal tunnel and cubital tunnel surgeries, which I don't really think that was the problem. I think it was more my neck from the whole thing. I have a lot of injuries, and what's sad is that because I don't look like I'm injured per se from what everyone looks at, because I'm not gonna show my pain. It's all internal. It's not, something visible other than my scars that I have. Um, like it makes it very difficult because people don't see the pain when I'm at home. Like I'm always rushing, I'm always doing this, I'm always doing that. But it's my adrenaline that keeps me going. Once I stop, it's like is when I feel everything. And once I have time to think about it, is when I feel everything. So it's definitely mental. A lot of the stuff we go through with our pain, like it's to the point if you sit there and dwell on it, it's gonna get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't want to have to rely on pain pills for the rest of my life. I choose to keep myself busy. I choose to have my mind thinking about other things and helping other people and having a different mindset or trying to find a solution to these problems that just are unbelievable that the city puts us through. And I think that's one thing that's really inspired me to why I'm doing the wellness center or to be an advocate for first responders. It's because so many first responders are killing themselves because of being injured and after the after effects of being injured. Again, they're the ones surviving whatever it may be. And now there's dealing with either survivor remorse, depending on the situation, or they're dealing with just the aftermath of work comp. the financial problems, the marital problems, the pain that they're dealing with their injuries. I mean, addictions, you name it, that come from work comp injuries. And it's sad that in this day and age, with everything with technology, like the city should be ashamed of themselves of how they're treating first responders. We're not a number, we're a person, and we gave up so much, and yet we're getting taken advantage of and getting disrespected and just not taken care of.
I, I
And
think
like
I think that goes. I've interviewed a lot of people, and it sounds like that goes across the country, right? You know, it really does. You get hurt on the job. Your situation is unfortunate. You get shot on the job, but you get treated like a piece of shit. You're forgotten about. Nobody remembers you, and
and I
you.
did everything right. I did everything I was supposed to. I mean, I came back from something most people wouldn't have gone back to, and I went back and gave more time of my life to the department, to the city. Yet, this is how I get treated back. It's absolutely sickening.
So let's talk about women in law enforcement. That sounds like a fun topic, doesn't it? And I will say this before we even get into this topic. I worked alongside females in law enforcement, and I thought it was the best thing. I loved it. There's cops out there that I've heard them say other things. You and me had a conversation about a character on social media who doesn't know how to keep his mouth shut about women in law enforcement. There was a few New York State female state troopers, county sheriffs I worked alongside of that were just absolutely amazing. And glad that I didn't listen. They may have been smaller than me, but I think you can agree on this. When the shit hits the fan, it doesn't matter your size. Your adrenaline's going to kick in. You're going to live, right?
If
That's
you have that passion.
yeah, yeah. So and I always loved it because females bring a different personality. They just do, and then it worked out good playing good cop and bad cop, and I thought it was freaking awesome. I always loved it when a female backed me up. I thought that was the greatest thing. But do you think females are treated differently on the job?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have thought so before my shooting. After my shooting, I saw it. I know it's sad to say that my shooting and everything happening after my shooting, the Monday morning quarterback talking, people who thought you were friends talking behind your back. It was very discouraging, just to hear that later on. And I would pretend I would look them in the face and I pretend I didn't know what they were saying. I heard what they were saying, but I knew exactly who they were, and it's really sad. It's like I would not want to put anyone in my position of what I went through. Um, what's funny, if I was a guy doing exactly what I did, I would have probably got a pat on the back and a praise and everything else, and hey, that was pretty courageous, not to give up and not just to run away. And yet I, as a female, I get everything. Oh, she didn't get cover. She didn't do this. She didn't do that. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, where are we? I was with my partner. We had no cover. We didn't even know the guy was shooting. We didn't know where he was shooting from. Like it's just unbelievable. But I will say is, like, when it comes to law enforcement, things are changing because there's a lot more now females in law enforcement. And unfortunately, it's just like anything. There's bad females. There's bad male officers. There's bad and good in every race or even sex. It's like, when you come to being a police officer, if you're there for the right reason and you're there to back up your partner, or you're there to do the right, do your job, then you're going to do it. Unless you're one of those people that came on the job because you thought you're going to just get a paycheck, and you're doing it because of the paycheck. You're not doing it because you have the passion. You're not doing it because you want to have the will to survive if something happens or help someone else and be their backup. Like, I was always that backup that was there. I was always the one in the mix. I was always the one hands on. I was not afraid to get myself involved. Unfortunately, there's a lot of male and females that, don't want to get involved anymore. Don't want to touch anybody. Don't even want to be involved in an altercation. And you're like, wow. So, and we see it all the time. So, especially now with social media.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about the suck it up culture?
You know what? I think this generation is such a different generation. I mean, I thank God I'm not a cop right now, because I probably would have got myself in trouble, by saying things I probably shouldn't have said. Um, but I don't feel like these officers can do their job anymore. And I feel like they're losing the respect from the public, just because I feel like the public is using their cell phones, is using their, like, as almost like power for themselves to get away with their crimes or their antics, or there's no consequences anymore for their actions. And now I really felt it's pushing law enforcement to a different direction. It's really sad. I really hope that, whoever comes into becoming a governor in California or in politics or whoever, that they stand put their foot down and say, look, no, when you have an officer say something, just do it, just comply. And then later on, if you want to argue about it, then you can argue to the supervisor or whatever, but don't argue while you're out there in public. Or don't try to make it a bigger issue and cause an altercation or cause something to get out of control when it shouldn't be even that type of position. Like there's so many, you see all these things on social media, they're so minor. And the next, they're blown up into something that could have just been easily avoided, without someone getting injured or killed or, yeah.
It almost like when somebody has their cell phone out, it's theatrical.
Hmm.
Like seriously, like we have a show and we have to put out, and we need an audience and we have to put on the show. Like, and I probably watch the same crap that you do, and it's like unreal. Like, and like most apartments across the country, the majority of them have body cameras, and we're still pulling out cell phones. Like,
You know what it is? I feel like the public, I mean, not everybody, but majority, pull out their phones because it's almost like they're pumping themselves up. Like they want to be on social media saying, look what I just did. Look what I just put that officer down. Or it's almost like it's a glorified way of disrespecting law enforcement or any kind of authority. It's like being a kid who's disrespectful to their parents and doing that in front of their friends. And you think about it, TV promotes all that crap. TV is really promoting being disrespectful to the authorities, being disrespectful to elderly, being disrespectful to your parents. I mean, the TV is what's raising kids nowadays, not parents, because their parents are hardly with their kids. A lot of these parents are basically at work or with their friends and are on their phones. And these kids are on their phones 24/7 or on their laptops. So who's training them? Who's teaching them the laptops, the TV,
yeah, seriously, that's video games, laptops,
Mhm.
TV.
Yep,
That's what's teaching kids today. And where's the parental involvement?
exactly.
Like, I don't know if I necessarily see it, but I know in my children that there's a lot of parental involvement involved.
That's good.
In 2006, you end up on Survivor. How the heck did you end up doing that?
Well, because of my shooting and all of the story, from everything I've had from my stories, I got casted for it. I knew a guy that I dated, his friend was the casting director of Survivor. So she called me out of the blue and said, hey, do you want to do Survivor? And I'm like, no, I'm good. I really didn't know what it was about, other than it being a survival type show. I didn't know really was like the idols and the backstabbing, all that. I had no clue. So next thing I know, it was like, she's like, no, really, you should try it. And I'm like, well, let me see if my chief gives me permission. And I was really hoping he would say no because I really want to get out of it. 'Cause I'm thinking fear factor. I'm thinking are any bugs. So next thing you know, is my chief says, oh, you should do it. It's great PR. It can win $1 million. And I was full time back on the job. So the city, that's another thing they're trying to use against me. Like, oh, you were on Survivor and while you were on work comp. I'm like, no, I was not. I was full time on the job. It's like any officer who goes back from an injury and they're full time on the job and they go to CrossFit. It's exactly like that, except CrossFit is a lot more than freaking Survivor. At least Survivor is a little bit more of a recreational. But like even the challenges we did weren't even like heavy duty type challenges. But yeah, it was quite an experience. I wish I would have known more about what Survivor was at the time. I wish I would have read the big old pamphlet they gave me. But literally, it was like a month after they gave me that notice that I was on the show. And it was an interesting experience. But I'm glad I played it the way I did. I'm glad I didn't know about all other stuff that the idols or the backstabbing because I played it the right way. At that year, I was a school resource officer, so I was teaching kids about morals and values and telling the truth. And here I am on a show that's all the opposite of that. And so I was glad I played it in the decent way. And if I couldn't win it being decent and being a good person, well, then it wasn't meant to be. And when I went back to the schools, the kids were like, oh my God, they were bullies to you. They're so mean to you. So it was actually a good thing because the kids and I were able to kind of relate in a different way. So it was cool.
So that would basically, my next question was, being on Survivor, what did that teach you? And you were able to bring those teachings those learnings that you had from Survivor and bring them back to the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a show that definitely humbles you. I mean, I felt like I was homeless. I felt like, a transient in a sense because I had no showers. There's no bathrooms. So you had to go find a hole and, do your thing and cover it up. I mean, it definitely was an experience. And then not eating and I mean, starving and just like, I never thought I'd be dreaming about food and you dream about food. just everything, the whole experience. I mean, even and then just trying to deal with people in a different way. I'm all about helping people out. Again, I've been through several near death experiences, and you can't take money when you die. My thing is, if I'm going to make money, I'm going to share that money with somebody. It's all about helping each other out. And that show, I didn't know, and that's another thing I didn't know. You couldn't like talk about sharing the money. And later on, when I came home and I read that packet, it says you can't say those things. And I was saying all those opposite things. It was kind of funny. But it was an experience. It definitely was. But it's opened doors to the charities I do. I'm really glad I did it. And I'm glad I met the people I did. Everyone's amazing that was on Survivor, the cast, the producers, the people involved in putting it on. It actually was a really good experience.
So currently today, and what you're doing a lot of advocacy. Do you want to walk us through the different things that you're doing as far as maybe security consultant and speaking in schools? Can you elaborate on that a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yeah. So I work for different security companies, just random different type of executive protection jobs. Sometimes consult with people who have homes that want to know what's the safest way to keep their house safe, whether it's cameras, whether it's clearing bushes, things like that. I'm more getting away from that just because I'm not trying to stay in that kind of career. I'm that's more just for extra money. But right now, I'm trying to work on some projects when it comes to making money for my nonprofit. So I'm starting a nonprofit called Code 3 Reset. It's going to be a wellness center and sanctuary for injured first responders. So let's just say, like when I got injured, I was by myself, and if you're not married, you don't have that extra help. So for me, I mean, I was partially paralyzed in my left arm. I couldn't use my arm. So there's a lot of things I needed help with. At the same time, I was very discouraged because I was by myself. This place would be a place they can come, they can relax. They would have, like, we have a huge, we're looking at some property in Texas to start it out. We might bring it here first last year where we're going to start it. But we have somebody who's going to donate some ADUs and have places where officers can, or firemen can stay while they're injured. So that first year while they're going through it, they can rent out their house or their apartment. So they're not worrying about their finances. They can stay there and recover while they're there. And while they're dealing with work comp, they can get free treatments from us, like whether it's pain management, whether it's IV drip, whether it's cryotherapy, massage therapy. They can use like their chiropractor stuff at the work comp stuff there. PT, we're gonna have a psychologist there on board. We're gonna have a chaplain there. We're gonna have basically a little bit of everything out there that's new because there's a lot of new stuff now for PTSD. There's a lot of new equipment out there to help with healing. So we're gonna have like these beds that help heal like inflammation. So there's gonna be a lot of new technology there that we're gonna use to give free treatments for first responders. And that way, again, while they're dealing with work comp, which there's delays, denials, and all that crap, that's your pain's still not gonna stop. Like while you're going through all that, you're still gonna have that pain. So we want to make sure we have that taken care of and also have the peer support. So they're around other first responders. They're not by themselves. Like they have almost another family, and that's we could have dinners there, we can have movie night there, we can talk about all of our problems and have a solution for those problems. If they have issues where they can't afford to get their roof fixed, we can go get that fixed for them. We find somebody to do it. If they need issues with someone to pay for their mortgage payment for that month, we'll find a solution for that. It's a one-stop shop for first responders that are injured and also helps them understand the work comp process, understands how to be an advocate for themselves, and fight for themselves.
I want to go back just a little bit because I want to come back into the Code 3 Wellness Center. But you also talk to kids about violence, gangs, and trafficking. Why does that matter to you?
Well, again, I don't want those kids to be our problem in the future. Don't want them to fall into, if I have a chance to talk to a child or a teenager or whatever, they're going through something. It doesn't hurt to tell a kid, "Hey, don't do drugs." It doesn't hurt to tell a kid, "Be safe." It doesn't hurt, and it doesn't have to be your kid. It could be someone else's. Just always warning them. I think the more they hear it, it's instilled in their head. They're not going to want to do that stuff if they keep having everyone, not just their parents, tell them, "Hey, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good," or "Don't do this," or "Be careful." It instills it in them. So I think it's up to all of us, not just a police officer, but anybody, to instill those positive things in their head. Like, "Hey, you're gonna do good. Hey, what are your goals?" Like, put those things. Have them constantly thinking of positive things, not the end of the world, not, there's it's important to keep these kids safe.
There's a lot of the end of the world conversations that do occur, and unfortunately, the youth see that, but focus on the positive, right?
Yes. Well, and even with all the negative that's out there, it's trying to find a solution to stop the negative. Whether it's, I mean, we have so many things happening to these days with our food, with our water. Yeah, it's kind of like being what's that one lady who was an advocate for the water? Remember those it was polluted and there's a movie about her and she fought and she helped disclose all those people that were polluting the water. Brockovich,
Oh,
Aaron
yes,
Brockovich.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's kind of like being an Aaron Brockovich. I think if all these kids would put their minds together and stopping a lot of this crap from happening, whatever's getting on our foods, whatever is getting in our water, or finding solutions to the problems that we're having, it would make this world a better place. Instead of just sitting there on their video games and playing video games all day long and living in their parents' house till they're 40 years old. So for me, it's like, like we have to find some solutions to these problems and our kids are our future. So
Yeah, get out of the basement.
yes, exactly.
So let's go back to the Code 3 Reset Wellness Center and tell me more about it. And like, I know it's a slow moving process. We've already talked
Yes.
before the podcast.
Well, I'm
Where,
working on some uh
yeah, go ahead. So
yeah.
where are you right now?
Okay, so right now I'm working on some other projects. I actually am working on a vodka line, a whiskey line, and a cold brew line. And I'm working on the name because I'm having some issues there. I mean, unfortunately, when it's starting a job, I was starting a business. There's so much to entail when it comes to trademarks or LLCs or EINs. I mean, being a cop 15 years of my life and going into business is a totally different outlook, a totally different avenue, and it's a lot involved. And I wish whoever's listening to this, if you're in the business world, please come help me because I'm trying to establish these things and make money so I can give money. But it's so hard to understand all the different pieces to the puzzle to make sure you do everything right. You're not stepping on anyone's toes. You're not trying to steal anyone's ideas and that, that they don't think you're stealing someone's ideas or that, you don't think they're stealing your ideas. I think that in law enforcement, we all have very similar ways of thinking and with words and play, wordplay and sometimes that gets convoluted in when we're trying to start a business. So I'm trying to get those things going so that I can push money towards this. And once everything starts getting going, it's going to be a positive thing.
And you believe that it's gonna, you said Texas right now? You think that's where it's,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I only think Texas only because they're pro police, pro military. There's a lot of investors out there that would help out the cause. California's a little different. There's so much, I don't know, a lot of red tape around here. I'll say it that way. Well, not even red tape, more blue tape. But yeah, it's a different dynamic here. But maybe we will bring out here. I don't know. I'm trying to start it there. But again, I'm trying to start my other businesses first so that I have the money to fund my nonprofit and that it all goes in the right direction. And again, I want to get my business started by 4th of July, which is my anniversary. So it'll start something new. It's a new, fresh start.
So before we started, you had a topic that you wanted to bring up, and I'm going to give it to you and talk about workers' compensation, which, in all honesty, hits probably every state in the country, right? When
Yes.
somebody's injured in the line of duty, it doesn't matter if they're law enforcement, a firefighter, first any type of first responder, or if they are a clerk in a town hall, right? So you go on workers' comp. Let's go ahead and you take it from there.
Well, when I was a cop, I thought, okay, well, if I get injured, they're going to take care of me. Like, I'm not going to stress about things like that because we all know we're going to get injured some way or another by doing our job. It's just, it comes in a part for the core. But when I did get injured, I was very disappointed in how I was treated afterwards, especially when I had some legitimate injuries. I didn't just trip and fall. I had some legitimate injuries that were life changing. And to be treated the way I've been treated or other officers have been treated after you retire, especially after you retire, because you have a lot more leverage and a lot more rights when you're on the job. But after you retire, they treat you like you're just a number. And unfortunately, they really don't care about us. They just care about their money. They care about, how much they can save and they will put you through the process. They're waiting for you to either give up, kill yourself, or just, die naturally, which they did to my father after he was killed. All of a sudden, he was dealing with his work comp case, and they ended up calling my mom the day that my dad died. And I mean, just so disrespectful. They basically said, "Oh, we're calling because we have his case settled." And then my mom's like, "Well, he's dead." And they're like, oh, "Okay, never mind then." So pretty much it's like a slap in the face, not only to my dad, but that he's gone, but my mom. Like, you're gonna call someone who her husband just passed away and let them know that his case is settled now. I mean, just the way they handle things to me is just disrespectful. Just no compassion. Things have got to change. I really think that we as first responders need to start stepping up and start telling these, senators, politicians, they need to change work comp laws. I mean, Governor, or at the time, there was Arnold Schwarzenegger, he ruined the whole work comp system. And I know there's a lot of fraudsters out there. There's a lot of people that take advantage, but the ones that have legitimate injuries, like myself and plenty of others, this is not what you do to us. Like, you don't take advantage of us. You should be taking care of us. We have future medical. There's future medical for a reason, so that our medical gets taken care of without having to be questioned and make us feel like we're suspects. And I feel like their lawyers from the city question you, like, literally like you're suspect. I mean, question you everything you do. Like, for instance, I got rear-ended after I retired. They try to blame my neck and back injury on me getting rear-ended. I'm like, no, 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 no. On my MRIs prior to retiring, and I tell every officer, every fireman, go get a body scan before you retire. Make sure you get that documented to show that the city, any injury you had is prior to you, like it's for you being on the job prior to you retiring. Because they will try to use everything against you as possible. I mean, again, they treat you like you're a suspect. It's so disgusting, and it makes people more stressed out. And again, that's why a lot of these first responders are committing suicide, because it's just so stressful that they put you in this predicament where it costs you financial problems, or it costs you marital problems, or it costs you, you being addicted to pain meds or to alcohol or to whatever else.
It sounds so. I did the military and first responder community both, and be careful what I say, but it sounds very similar to the veterans community as well, where we can talk about this because it's public knowledge. Veterans, it's a high rate. It's right up there with first responders and whatnot, and then in the suicides, they're not. It's full spectrum. There's no other way to look about it, and it's like you're a number all the way across the board, no matter if you're a veteran or first responder.
Yeah.
Like, let's make sense out of this. We're the people helping people, right? And then, unfortunately, some of us get hurt or whatever the case may be, blown up by an IED, lose a limb, get shot in the line of duty, but then you're treated like a number.
Yep.
And you, I just say, Frank, I don't give a shit, but you're treated like shit. You're treated like shit. And I know for me, and on the veteran side, I get sick and tired of hearing all the propaganda, how much you're doing for veterans. Well, I like to see it because I don't see it.
Exactly.
And
And that's
then
the thing. There's plenty of other nonprofits out there that claim they help first responders and, oh, we give money here, we give money there. I've never seen any of this. I've never, like, when I was a cop, I mean, granted, things are different now with social media, and there's a lot more help for injured officers. But there's a lot of nonprofits that are not. They just say it and they don't do it. And it's honestly, it's one thing. Like, just giving a person a check for $100 is not going to change their day, especially in this day and age. That doesn't even pay for gas nowadays. It's like a slap in the face. It's like, if anything, find a solution to their problem. It's not even just about money. It's finding a solution to their problem. Whether if they're going to lose their house, we'll find a way to help save that house. Like, there's investors out there. There's people that can help. Unfortunately, what's sad is there's so many nonprofits, and it's good, but for officers to get killed in line of duty, which is great because we need that. Um, I having lost my father, but again, he wasn't killed in line of duty, so again, my mom didn't get those benefits. But I wouldn't have cared about the benefits. I would rather have my father there. But at the same time, they're not here, but yet there's people left here who are struggling and are by themselves. And now we can't even do anything. We're not doing the job we love to do. We're fighting for our benefits. We're fighting for just to live, like just to survive. And it's not right. It really is not.
there is you're talking about the non-for-profits for first responders. There is a podcast, and I'll have to plug them in on this one. I've never met the gentleman. It's a podcast called Reasons We Serve. And he just interviewed a gentleman who has out on the West Coast who has a non for profit. The podcast is Reasons We Serve. Gentleman he interviewed started his law enforcement career out in the East Coast out here and then migrated, I believe, towards Las Vegas. And that's where he wrapped up his law enforcement career. He was hurt in the line of duty and he started a non for profit. And one of what he's doing for, and like you said, there is a lot of non for profits, like they're there, but where are they? Right. This gentleman's non for profit they do a lot of good work. And he was describing it. I listened to the whole podcast and it was unbelievable what he's doing. And
What's the name of it?
the name of the podcast is called Reasons We Serve. If you give me a second, I'll just verify that on my phone.
Okay. But the nonprofit is called Reasons Reserve?
No, that's the name of the
Oh,
podcast.
okay. I mean, there's a good nonprofit that I went to as a part of, an LEO Weekend. They're awesome. Austin Glickman helps promote so many amazing things for injured first responders and for the
Yeah.
families of the fallen. He brings them out there, and in fact, it was such an amazing experience. Here, years later, I'm getting honored, and I literally was in tears. I mean, I remember being at the airport and being greeted by the police at NYPD at the on the plane. I was like, literally, the airline stewardess says, "Can everyone please sit down?" And choreo party, please walk up to the front of the plane. And I'm freaking out, thinking, "Oh my God, did something happen?" And everyone's looking, and I'm like, I'm so nervous. My face is red. My friends are like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "I don't know." And so we're walking up, and next thing they say, "Oh, just so you guys know, this officer was injured on line of duty years ago, but she's being honored today or this weekend at the LEO weekend." And literally, I was like in tears. Like I was like a mess, and the pilot, everybody like, "Thank you." And I mean, they opened the doors and the police were right there. It was such an amazing experience. It was such a warm welcoming. And honestly, this is years later. And I just, it really, to me, it's like, I think things like that is what really hits home. I, it killed me. It really did.
Yeah. The veterans community as well. Like there's a lot of non-for-profits, but I have to give a shout out to one, Burn Pits 360.
Ah,
They're down in the Corpus Christi, Texas area. Awesome freaking organization. These people are awesome. Leroy and Rosie Torres and the whole Burn Pits 360 team is just absolutely amazing. As I had described to you prior to going on air, that due to my toxic exposure, I looked for everybody. And coincidentally, I knew when they had developed the organization, which was 2009, 2010. And I had known about it back then, but here we are, fast forward to at the time was 2025, and they had come such a long way and such great people. And it was such awesome organization, and God bless their hearts. And I wish there was more of that, right?
yeah,
And same in the first responder
yeah.
community. But I believe they are. It's just a matter of finding them.
I am, yes. Well, I'm helping my friend right now. I'm the president of her nonprofit. It's called Exclusively First Responders. And she's actually helping. She wants to do more of the rehab part of it, but we're also going to collaborate on her rehab and my wellness center. But she's also working on some apps. I'm working on an app called CYA. It's called Cover Yourself app. I guess like cover your ass, but cover yourself app. And it's going to be all related to work comp stuff. So anything from day one on the job to the day you retire, everything's going to be in this app. And so it will help basically with your mileage or the parking, with everything, and also give you some guidance of how to deal with the work comp process.
Did it, I know out here in California and other states, workers' comp is a pain in the ass to navigate. And
There's
I
so many loopholes, so many people, like so many pieces to the puzzle. Like I see a doctor like every month, and that doctor puts in a request for my treatments or whatever, and then the utilization review board denies it or approves it. And literally, it's whoever's standing in this utilization review board doesn't make sense because they've contradicted things they've said. Like I got approved for surgery during COVID, neck surgery. Then they denied it or they canceled it because of COVID. But then later on, they requested it again, my doctor, and then they denied it, saying it's not medically necessary. I'm like, you guys just said it was medically necessary and it was okaying it, and then now you're denying it after it's been requested again. It just does not make sense. It's asinine, literally asinine. I want to find out who's paying these utilization review board people because someone must be paying them so that they're denying everything because it just does not make sense.
yeah, one hand washes the other, doesn't it?
Yep, exactly. And how would you even know? Like you see these people, they're getting a job for a reason. This utilization review board is there for a reason. They're getting paid. If they don't deny things, they're not going to get paid. They're probably not going to be used anymore. So they're probably saying, hey, you know what? We better kind of balance it out. Like, we'll deny this, we'll approve this. We'll deny this, we'll approve that. Like, I don't know. It's just sickening. I'm just so over it.
When I was involved in my car accident, I was 3 minutes from work, right? And somehow, in some way, workers' comp gets involved. It was an off-duty accident. And next thing you know, I have a workers, he worked for the state workers' comp board, knocking at the door, calling my phone at the same time. And he wanted to take a statement from me. I'm like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
No, because I had already known for many years that workers' comp is just an atrocity. And the last thing I was going to do was provide a statement to, he was a nice guy. I'm not going to take that away from him. He really was. And I was like, dude, I got to tell you, I'm not going to put anything on paper for you. And
Yeah.
this
Well,
didn't, it did, it
that's what
didn't,
they do.
yeah. I was like, it didn't occur in the line of duty. I mean, it'd be one thing if it did, but it didn't.
But this is the thing, they're trying to protect their asses. They're trying to say, "Well, if this happened off duty, you're gonna try to prove you're gonna try to later on say it happened on duty." That, the way they do things is so asinine. I mean, it's like, I mean, again, I know where there's a lot of fraudsters out there that I'm sure, especially supervisors, because once they get, they wanna retire, like, "Oh, well, let's get a medical retirement because that's tax-free." So there are a lot of shysters out there, and that's what's sad is those shysters, the ones ruined it for the ones like us that are legitimately have injuries that we're trying to get them taken care of and trying to make. I mean, there was a time that I went to a physical therapy and I found out how much the physical therapists were making, and they were like basically taking advantage. They're charging the city way more than what they normally charge a customer. I even reported that to my city, like the city, the city, saying, "Hey, you guys are paying this company way too much money. Like, send me to a different one." It's trying to help them, and I'm like, and this is how I get treated. I'm like, are you kidding me? So honestly, if they just would take care of their officers or their firemen or their first responders or our vets, if they would just to take care of their injuries, we wouldn't have any of these problems. They'd be right back on the job and then going right back to what they were doing before. Instead of spending all this money, making them wait, causing more injuries, causing other injuries, because one injury will now cause another injury because you're not overcompensating. It's just asinine how they do this. Like they need someone who will come in and be like, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Let's use common sense. But then again, everything nowadays, no one's using common sense. So I don't know. Common sense is out there. It's like frickin' A. Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, I got to do one more thing because I promise, I promised a buddy of mine I'd do this. And I have to give a shout out to the Crime Dogs podcast. That's DAUGS, Crime Dogs podcast. So they're in upstate New York here, right? And it's two retired Rochester City police officers that have a podcast together, David Simpson and Johnny Fiorica. And I know you're on the West Coast, but they're all over social media. These
Okay.
guys, they're hilarious and they say it how it is. So, and they go live on Wednesday nights and they just don't give a shit.
Oh,
And
listen to them.
they talk about law enforcement throughout the country.
Oh, okay.
A lot here locally because we have enough of our own, right? But if something big happens throughout the country, they're gonna hit on it, and they do an awesome show. So and they've always said a lot about me, and I always want to give
Nice.
this support back. They're awesome guys. There's
Well,
probably I don't know, maybe a little bourbon involved, but hey, whatever. So they do it. They do a really good show on Wednesday nights, which would be in the afternoon your time.
Well, there's one shout out I want to shout out is there's a celebrity softball game coming out in during 9/11. It's going to be in Texas. It's the Celebrity Softball Classic, and it's for vets and first responders. They raise money for our vets, for our first responders. They give back in so many ways. The softball game will be celebrities and vets and some first responders. But it's a huge organization. It's amazing. TK Tim Klund, he puts this on and he puts on a great event every year. And if you ever heard about it, I mean, look it up. I'll send you the link. But it's the Celebrity Softball Classic in Texas during 9/11.
Do you know metropolitan area in Texas?
It's going to be in Frisco. It's going to be in Frisco, Texas.
Frisco, Texas.
It's going to be at the let me see here. Oh, I have my phone. You know what? I'll send. It's going to. It's going to be in Texas. So I want to say it's in Frisco, near Frisco.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Send that
It's
to me
gonna
to me later. But
Okay.
wrapping up on this, I want to go back to your faith. And I think it's highly important because first responders, veterans, even nurses, right? We have to have an outlet or some place to go. And you turn to faith. And I've interviewed a lot of people that have turned to different things. And like I've said before, you got to pick your flavor and whatever works for you. I know people have tried therapy and they say the hell with this. They've tried other things too. There's hyperbaric oxygen treatment. That's a big thing, right? A lot of people have great success from that. So but the Bible is often overlooked. Unfortunately, it is. So I think we could say in good faith right now that if you're having a rough day and you're a first responder, if you don't have a Bible, go get one.
Yeah.
And if you know anybody in your community that's in the church or whatnot, I don't know of any person in a congregation that's, a chaplain, a reverend, a priest, a minister that won't take the time out of their day to sit down and talk with you, because I've been there.
Yep.
Yeah. And so,
Well, you know what? One thing that helped me through everything was I remember opening it up to Job and that story of Job, who basically was tested in so many ways. And I feel like right now, this world, we're being tested, with everything. I mean, even think about it, like even during the Columbine shooting, there was a child who the guys had told her, "Do you still believe in God? Do you still believe in God?" And they ended up shooting her because she said, "Yes, I still believe in God." And it's happened so many times. Like there's this evil entities out there that honestly just want to. It's the devil trying to work, basically trying to have us go away from God. And I think the more and more in the society we go away from God, the more and more we're going to face these bad times. So
yes,
I feel that if people were to open up the Bible and look at Job's story and see everything he was put through and realized he still believed in God through it all, and he got through it. So it's like what we're going through, like whatever I've gone through, I've realized, okay, this next year won't be as bad. This next year won't be so bad. There's always a solution to the problem. Whatever's our problem today is not going to be our problem tomorrow, or maybe not tomorrow, but maybe like not next year. But things always get solved some way or another. There's a good thing out of a bad thing. And I try to always look at the good rather than the bad, even with work comp, even with the people that are working for work comp. I don't get what soul they have because they're soulless. I don't get it. I just don't.
I think a message that can be sent is we've all been in horrible times, bad times, depressed times, anxiety ridden. There's always, and I hate this, and I get a lot of feedback on the social media, right? Somebody had mentioned, no, not anyone is there for you, or there's not people there for you. Bullshit. I know I can, if I was having a bad time right now, I could pick up the phone and somebody's going to answer. I may have to call
Yeah.
two or three different people,
Yeah.
and always look back at your faith,
Yeah. Well, I
because
will say we have to ask for the help. And most first responders and vets do not ask for help.
because we're
That's our
tough,
problem. Yes.
but the help is there and the resources are there. And it's just,
Well,
but
this goes back. I even asked the city. I've never spoken to a psychologist. Never even through all my shootings and all the trauma I've been through. I've never seen a doctor, right, or seen a psychologist. I asked the city to send me to one. Here's a first responder asking to actually go see one, right? And they denied it. They kept denying it. I'm like, are you freaking? It just proved right there that here we're asking for help, and yet they can't even give us that help. And finally, it got approved, but it took them time to get that approved. Yet, here again, I'm asking. And I think that's the discouraging part because they will make things harder for you when you do ask. It's just, I don't know. It's
when
frustrating.
probably when you don't ask, you get what you need, and when you
I
do
know,
ask,
right?
you
It's
don't
reverse
get.
psychology.
Yeah, it's just totally opposite. It's how what they put people through. It it's agonizing to hear the stories. It's
Yeah.
agonizing to hear your
But I
story.
think they do that on purpose. They really want to break you down, unfortunately. But that's why I think like all I can do is pray on it. I could pray, just pray for those people, pray for that lawyer, pray for like I went off on the city lawyer. I was like, I was so done because it's been 18 years since I've been dealing with this. And when we did a deposition, I went off. I said, how dare you? Like, do you have a personal vendetta against me? I'm like, literally, like, you've probably made more money in this case by dragging it on than by me just getting my settlement. Like I could have lived, I mean, I could have had an 18-year-old kid by now, but because of all the stress I've gone through, my body won't allow me to have children, like it's everything. I'm like, but you should be ashamed of yourself. It's not like I didn't give up my everything for this job. Like I didn't just trip and fell. And he just like was in shock. And like he was like backpedaling. I'm like, no. I said, this is not right. I said, how dare you try to fight people who are risking their life every day, day in and day out on the job and they gave it all, almost gave their life for it. But then they're here alive trying to struggle and try to get their life taken care of back on track. And you're going to do this to them and to make us feel like we're suspects and question us. Like it's so disgusting. I was like, I didn't care at that point. I was like, what do I have to lose? He needs to hear something.
Good for you speaking up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just frustrating. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, Christina, thank you so much. I know we spoke a few weeks ago and we were working on this and tried to get together. It's kind of
Yeah.
hard being on the East Coast and the West Coast, and it's like we're in two different worlds, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
but I can't remember shit anyway. But
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 hey, I
I'm
appreciate you for having me on.
no, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And if you would just stand by for a second and I'll be right with you, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, thank you.